Throughout my childhood, my older sister Kelly cast a shadow over me. My name is Jennifer. Among us, she was the center of attention. Everyone from great-uncles to cousins would drop by our house at some point. Like ants attracted to a picnic, they would swarm to our backyard to enjoy my mom's world-famous BBQ and see Kelly play. A large oak tree provided the ideal backdrop against our meticulously manicured lawn, turning our backyard into an outdoor theater. As soon as Dad would start the grill, the house would be filled with the aroma of charcoal and the sound of meat cooking. Mom was in a constant state of mad dash to get a drink for everyone. "Kelly, sweetie," Aunt Cheryl would raise her voice above the din. "Why don't you sing us a song?" Kelly became the center of attention in an instant. Her golden locks would flutter as she leaped onto a chair, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Before she would begin singing, she would dramatically clear her throat. It was a blast for her to perform her Celine Dion impression during My Heart Will Go On, and the grown-ups went absolutely bonkers, applauding and roaring as if it were a genuine concert. Both parents would be quite proud, and occasionally Dad would even wipe away a tear. At the same time, I would be disguising myself in the surrounding foliage. I really wanted to sing along, but no matter how hard I tried, my voice sounded like a distressed cat. And verse? Let it go. My red face would change into a stammer as the words became stuck. My relatives would often bring up the fact that I was so different from my sister in their whispers. Not only did other relatives make it obvious, but Mom and Dad were also aware of the family celebrity. I was left to fend for myself while Kelly was occupied with singing lessons, dance classes, and art seminars. However, I was mostly ok with it. The old, worn volumes that sat on our shelf brought me solace. It seemed like no one could relate to me except Great-Aunt Teresa. She would discover me skulking behind the garage or in the treehouse, engrossed in a book. "Jennifer, what kind of adventure are you going on today?" As she sat down next to me, she would inquire. When I needed a break, I'd gaze skyward. "Oh, I was just perusing some ancient Egyptian literature," I would explain, displaying the cover of my most recent creation. A smile would spread across Teresa's face as she nodded. "You're really level-headed, my dear. Refute all attempts to convince you otherwise." My heart was comforted by those moments spent with Teresa. She had no expectation that I would put on a show or pretend to be someone else. When I'm with her, I can completely disappear into my character, Jennifer, the shy girl who preferred reading to the bustle of family reunions. Those times were wonderful, but they couldn't erase the pain of being the overlooked kid. My parents would go out of their way to celebrate Kelly's accomplishments and show their appreciation with gifts of all kinds. New clothes, the newest electronics, you name it. What about me? Lots of deep sighs of disappointment and hand-me-downs were my lot. I found solace in my studies. I may not have been the most popular student, but I eventually settled into my niche. I couldn't be content to merely listen. I had an insatiable drive to comprehend every detail. After each lesson, I would confidently ask, "Mrs. David, could you review the material on my dosis one more time?" Somehow, I failed to grasp it. It was obvious that she cared because she would smile. "Without a doubt, Jennifer. How about we review it together?" If an instructor was too busy to meet with me, I would still ask for suggestions for books. I quickly filled my backpack with additional reading materials. I pored over those volumes all night long, intent on getting every subject correct. It was worthwhile. I had already established myself as the class leader by the time I entered high school. At last, I excelled at something. Other reserved bookworms who were understanding of my reserved personality even became friends of mine. Whenever graduation day drew near, our home transformed into Kelly Central. For the advertising and public relations program at a posh university, Mom devoted all of her time to assisting her with her portfolio. As Mom would review Kelly's campaign proposal, she would exclaim, "Oh my gosh, this idea is just perfect. You're incredibly gifted." I would scowl and retreat to my room where I would immerse myself in my studies. But I finally let my guard down one night at dinner with my family when we were talking about Kelly's college plans for the umpteenth time. I said, "I'm going to college too." That was my confession. I am intent on majoring in management. After a long period of dead silence, I was taken aback when everyone suddenly started laughing. "Oh, darling," Mom replied, her eyes moist with tears, "we just do not have the budget for that. Following your graduation, you must secure employment. It's simply that your sister is more talented than you." It was as rude as a slap in the face. But look at me. I'm the class leader. My voice quivered as I spoke. My expression was a mix of shame and wrath as I mumbled, "Every grade is an A for me." Roaring to my chamber, I screamed. I stumped back down to the table with my report card. Their astonishment was palpable as they drew closer to examine it. "Well, I'll be damned," Dad said as he scratched his head. "When was this occurrence?" I became angry and said, "This has been going on for years, and nobody has paid any attention." The redness and remorse on Mom's face were telling. She started to say, "Jennifer, we had no idea," but her father interrupted her. "Listen, it has no effect. Kelly's education has depleted our savings. Jennifer, there is absolutely nothing else for you. I'm afraid that is simply the reality. After you graduate, you'll be hired to work at my cousin Gary's restaurant." Disregarding their cries, I bolted. I dashed frantically towards my room, pounded on the door till it rattled with my impact. I broke down on my bed and sobbed till I felt a part of me stiffen. "Okay," I thought to myself as I clenched my hands. "They should assist me, or else I'll figure something else out. I will demonstrate my abilities to them." A haze enveloped the subsequent months. As Kelly departed for college, our parents hugged her proudly and said emotional goodbyes. In the meantime, I dove headfirst into my studies, intent on graduating first in my class. Throughout that period, I began to spend an increasing number of afternoons at the home of my great-aunt Teresa. I was able to forget about the stress at home and focus on it. As we sipped our tea in her cozy kitchen on a sunny afternoon, she finally posed the question I'd been dreading. Asking me, "So, Jennifer," she spoke softly, her compassionate gaze locked upon mine, "what are your plans after graduation?" As I fought back tears, I peered into my teacup. "Aunt Teresa, I'm not sure," I confessed. "College is out of the question for my parents. The cost of Kelly's education has reportedly depleted all remaining funds." For an instant, Teresa remained silent. Squeezing my hand, she extended her arm across the table. "Oh, my darling Jennifer, I do have some savings. For your college, I would like to use them. You're as bright as a bee, and I refuse to let your intelligence go to waste." The impact of her comments was so great that I couldn't help but cry. She was really sweet, and it gave me hope that maybe my goals weren't completely dashed. The words "thank you" escaped my lips as I embraced her, my gaze fixed on her. "Uncle Ted, I am eternally grateful to you." Time slipped away, and I found myself carrying my diploma across the stage at graduation. Looking out at the audience, I noticed Aunt Teresa's proud smile. Even though they didn't appear particularly proud, my parents were there as well. My mom walked into my room that night while I was perusing college brochures. "A relative of your father's named Gary called," she remarked to Jennifer with a lovely, syrupy voice. "You can work as a waitress at his restaurant, according to him. Don't you think that's cool?" I drew a long breath. "You know what? I'm not going to need that job, Mom. College is in my future." Frowning, Dad stepped out of the doorway. "And just how are you going to cover the cost of that?" "Aunt Teresa is assisting me," I declared with confidence. "Her savings for tuition are being gifted to me." The subsequent hush was nearly comical. I was taken aback as Dad's cheeks flushed with rage. "Definitely not," he yelled out. "It is only fair that Kelly receive Teresa's extra cash. The advertising job she'll have after graduation next year requires a vehicle. The news seemed so unbelievable to me. Are you for real? I lost it. Finally, I have an opportunity to further my education and achieve my goals. Jennifer, don't be selfish, Mom urged. That money is more important to your sister than to you. No, I replied, my voice trembling but unwavering. Now that it's mine, I intend to use it to pay for university. Let the conversation end. Life at home became intolerable after that. Either my parents paid me no mind at all, or they would get furious with me over nothing. Suffocating stress pervaded. I contacted Aunt Teresa, sobbing after a bad quarrel, and told her everything. She uttered the words, "Pack your bags, sweetheart," without wavering. "I'm inviting you to move in with me." The following day, I loaded up a cab with all of my belongings and rode away, seeing my boyhood home progressively recede in the rearview mirror until I reached Aunt Teresa's place. Huge burdens were lifted from my shoulders. As I got ready for college, the summer whizzed by, and I found myself walking into the State University campus in no time. My outstanding GPA and Aunt Teresa's generosity allowed me to enroll in the management program of my dreams. It seemed as if I were weightless on the first day of class. I couldn't help but think I made it as I sat in my Introduction to Business course, taking it all in. Yes, I am here. Kelly, meantime, was beginning her final year at her posh university. I made an effort not to be bothered by the fact that neither she nor my parents had communicated with me much after I moved out. The excitement and independence of college life had me too preoccupied. Aunt Teresa then contacted, approximately 1 month into the academic term. Muttering something along the lines of, "Jennifer, dear," she spoke with some hesitation, "I think you should sit down for this." As she broke the news that I had missed, my pulse raced. Seemingly out of the blue, Kelly returned home and stated she was dropping out of college. And why? A baby was on the way. "Oh, don't worry," Kelly reportedly said, acting like it was no big deal, according to Aunt Teresa, adding, "The baby's father is rich." She had just tossed her hair. "We're planning to tie the knot soon." However, it was not the outcome. When Kelly's boyfriend discovered that she had been seeing his friend as well, things went south for them. She had her doubts about his loyalty. Presently, no one knew for sure who the biological father was. The narrative was narrated to me by Aunt Teresa with a heavy sigh. I listened intently, holding the phone to my ear, while I attempted to absorb everything. The golden child had finally fallen, and a small part of me felt a perverse joy. On the whole, though, I felt terrible for Kelly and all the trouble she was having. For months, the drama continued. Even though I stopped going to family events, Aunt Teresa made sure I was informed on all the latest gossip. A DNA test done on Kelly's newborn child proved that her boyfriend was the biological father. Unfortunately, he simply consented to pay child support. Kelly never got her ideal wedding. My parents had attempted to force me into working as a server at Uncle Gary's restaurant, but the last straw was when Kelly, in her need for cash, took the job. I felt a whirlwind of conflicting emotions after I ended the call. Some shallow, selfish part of me wanted to brag about my accomplishments to my loved ones. All things considered, I was really appreciative of how far I had gone. Classes, examinations, and late-night study sessions consumed the subsequent years. I couldn't have imagined how quickly I was going across the stage at graduation, clutching my well-deserved degree in management. Aunt Teresa was beaming with pride and had tears of joy in her eyes as I gazed out at the audience. I was able to secure a managerial position at the Gilded Fork, a prestigious restaurant in town, thanks to my excellent grades and the glowing recommendations of my teachers. For the first time in my life, I felt genuinely accomplished, and the compensation was more than I could have ever imagined. I made up my mind the second I received my first paycheck. I wasted no time getting Aunt Teresa the newest smartphone from the electronics store. As soon as I gave it to her, her face brightened. "Oh, Jennifer," she said, her hands trembling as she turned over the silver phone. "This is too much." With a simple smile, I reached for my own phone. "None whatever. Here, I'll demonstrate its operation." I spent the following several weeks instructing Aunt Teresa in the ins and outs of social networking. The video feature on YouTube was particularly appealing to her, so she picked it up fast. Her garden, cat, and the entire apple pie making process were soon the subjects of numerous videos on her page. I used to spend my lunch breaks watching Aunt Teresa's movies and constantly liking or commenting on them. It became our method of maintaining contact despite my busy work schedule. It was at one of those hectic dinner prep times that my phone beeped. My mother's name caught my attention as I took a quick look. Year after year, we remained silent. "Jennifer," she whispered with some hesitation, "we were hoping you could drop by for a chat," they said. I nodded after a considerable interval. My hand lingered over the doorbell as I stood on the doorstep of my boyhood home on Friday. The door swung open before I had a chance to press it. "Miss Jennifer," I was embraced tightly by my mother. "My darling, it's wonderful to see you." I saw my dad, Kelly, and what I thought was my niece, a toddler, inside. Tensions were high, but not as high as I had anticipated. "You look good, kiddo," Dad quipped in a warm but rough voice. "From what we've heard, you're going well on your own." Still on the fence, I nodded. "Oh yes, I am. My current position is manager at the Gilded Fork." When I brought up the name of the restaurant, their expressions changed. Mom shook her head. "That is really delightful, my dear. Indeed, it is one reason we wish to speak with you." They admitted they were wrong to disregard my abilities and spent the next hour apologizing for their treatment of me. After that, they spoke about the visit's true purpose. By looking over at Kelly, Mom spoke the word Annie. "We were hoping that you might be able to assist Kelly in securing a position at your restaurant." As my sister bobbed her daughter on her knee, I glanced across at her. She refused to look me in the eyes. "I'll do my best," I finally stated. "No guarantees, but I will inquire." I followed through on my promise and discussed Kelly with the restaurant owner, Mr. Brandon. He was willing to give her an opportunity to be an administrator, which caught me off guard. Kelly began her new job the week after that. I was watching her closely because I thought she could make a fool of herself, but she pleasantly surprised me. Her punctuality, efficiency, and kind demeanor were much appreciated by the consumers. I began to relax around her as the weeks passed. Our workplace relationship was cordial, but we weren't exactly best buddies. Life sprung another unexpected turn for the better on me right when I thought things had finally settled down. Mr. Brandon summoned me to his office one day. "Jennifer, how would you like to assist me in growing the business?" he asked with a smile, calming my racing heart as I feared for my safety. A new chapter was upon me before I could even fathom it. Not one, not two, but 4 new eateries were launched under my supervision. Staff meetings, food tastings, and data crunching filled my days. It fulfilled all my desires and was both thrilling and draining. I was really overwhelmed by the amount of money I had when I got my promotion and subsequent large rise. My parents started calling at that point. Things were quite minor at start. "The roof is leaking," Mom would timidly say. "If you'd lend us a hand, we'd really appreciate it." Saying yes and solving their difficulties with a monetary transfer felt surprisingly fantastic. I found myself footing the bill for a full house remodel after the roof and water heater were taken care of. The monthly payment I was paying them helped them improve their financial circumstances, which allowed us to resume our family meetings. However, things were different this time. "Is Jennifer's newest endeavor something you're aware of?" The family would hear Mom's story with pride. "Downtown, she's launching a new eatery. How proud we are of her." Callie would give me a little smile whenever I caught her glance from across the room. The Gilded Fork promoted her to top administrator, so she was also doing well. "My girls," Dad would exclaim, embracing each of us. One of them is bringing honor to their elder. Anger at their previous treatment of me was tempting, and I wanted to harbor that bitterness. Part of me, nevertheless, reveled in their praise, which I had yearned for all this time. A sense of fulfillment enveloped me as I drove home that evening. I finally achieved my lifelong goals, professional success, and the affection and support of my loved ones. Not only was I the golden child now, but I was also a fully fledged adult. The world began tumbling down on a peaceful Friday afternoon. I was scrolling through YouTube, sipping my coffee, when I saw that Aunt Teresa had posted a new video. It was from one of the family parties I'd missed because of work. Smiling, I clicked play, expecting to see the usual fun and laughter. But instead, what I saw made my blood run cold. There, clear as day, were my parents, their faces red from drinking and self-importance. Mom was waving her hands around, her voice slurred but unmistakable. And Jennifer, that ungrateful little freeloader, she said, "She barely gives us anything. We're not made of money, you know." Dad joined in, his face flushed. "That's right. We're doing just fine thanks to our Kelly. She's the one keeping that fancy restaurant running. Jennifer just rides on her coattails." The video went on, showing various relatives nodding in agreement, some even throwing in their own complaints. Kelly sat in the corner, looking uncomfortable, but she didn't speak up to defend me. As the video ended, I just sat there, stunned. How could they do this? After everything I had done for them, after all the money I had given them, how could they say such terrible, false things? My hands were shaking as I scrolled down to the comments. There I saw a series of messages from my parents. "Teresa, delete this video right now. You had no right to post this. Take it down immediately." But Aunt Teresa's reply brought me to tears. "I don't know how to delete videos," she wrote, "and even if I did, I wouldn't. It's time everyone saw the truth about how you treat Jennifer. She's the one supporting you, and this is how you repay her kindness. Shame on you both." I sat there for what felt like hours, watching the video over and over, reading the comments again and again. The betrayal cut deep, reopening old wounds I thought had healed. Finally, I picked up my phone and called Aunt Teresa. "Oh, Jennifer, dear," she said as she answered, her voice full of sympathy. "I guess you've seen the video." "Yeah," I choked out, my voice raw from crying. "I can't believe it, Aunt Teresa. How could they?" I could hear the anger in her voice. "They've always been like this, Jennifer. You just were around to see it. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way, but maybe it's for the best. You deserve to know the truth." We talked for hours, with Aunt Teresa comforting me as I moved through shock, anger, and sadness. As night fell, I made a decision. "I'm cutting them off," I said, my voice steady despite the pain. "No more money, no more help. They made their choices. Now they can deal with the consequences." The days after the video were some of the hardest in my life. My phone buzzed constantly with calls and texts from my parents, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. Their cruel, false words kept playing in my head. After a week of silence, I finally sent them a brief text. "I've seen the video. I know how you really feel. Never again will you contact me. Here is where the money stops." Instantaneously, responses poured in. They expressed regret initially. "Dear Jennifer, our deepest apologies. Nothing we said was intended. Our apologies." Their tone shifted, though, as I remained silent. "It's us, your parents. You owe us a damn." I remained resilient despite the fact that every communication felt like a knife wound. I had repeatedly offered them opportunities, yet all they managed to do was cause me harm. The cycle needed to be broken. Interestingly, Kelly chose not to become involved. She maintained her impeccable work ethic and professionalism at all times. She made no indication that she was distressed about being unable to rely on our parents financially. Our exchanges were courteous but emotionally detached. One day, during a staff meeting, Kelly informed me, "I'm not taking sides. They are not involved. You are." Although a part of me wished she would defend me, I nodded in appreciation of her impartiality. However, I did realize that she was now responsible for her own child. The more time passed, the more I came to depend on Aunt Teresa. I looked forward to our weekly video chats more and more. At a time when my life was in such disarray, she would calm me by regaling me with tales of her garden or her most recent forays into baking. My mom would reassure me, "You're doing the right thing, Jennifer," anytime I felt self-doubt. Stay detached from their manipulation any longer. Other relatives began contacting us as well, which caught me off guard. A sincere email came from my cousin Cynthia, who had been nothing but welcoming during our many family reunions. She wrote, "I watched the video. Jennifer, I just wanted you to know how much I admire you. Your accomplishments and the positive impact you've had on others are truly remarkable. Permit no one to convince you differently. Uncle Frank unexpectedly contacted me. He is Dad's brother. My darling, I have witnessed your remarkable maturation into a lady. Your parents are completely deluded if they fail to see your unique worth. Your loved ones are rooting for you. Do not forget that." The comforting words of encouragement helped mend my broken heart. Even though I had to say goodbye to my parents, I had found a family who accepted me just the way I was. For some reason, Mr. Brandon summoned me to his office right before the year ended. I was anxious about how the family drama would impact my career, so he went into it with apprehension. His reaction, though, was to greet me with a broad grin. "Wow, I'm going to retire next year," he announced to Jennifer. "Please assume the role of Chief Executive Officer of the restaurant chain." I was speechless as I stood there, taken aback. "Are you sure?" was the stuttering response I could muster up. With gleaming eyes, he gave a nod. "I'm more confident than I have ever been before. It's yours to keep, Jennifer. This company would not have been successful without you. You need to step up and take charge." My thoughts were racing with anticipation as I walked out of his office, and then it hit me. The once ignored and underappreciated girl had blossomed into a lady who surpassed all expectations, even her own.
Hey everyone, I'm Sandra, a 28-year-old artist trying to carve out a life in the big city. Right now, I'm in my tiny studio apartment, surrounded by canvases and brushes, when my phone rings. It's my brother Michael, and I immediately know it can't be good news. Aunt Meredith's gone, Sandra. Heart attack. Just like that, my world shatters. Aunt Meredith wasn't just an aunt. She was my rock, my everything. When my parents were too caught up in their own chaos, she stepped in, becoming the mother I never had. I can still remember the first time she brought me to her antique shop. I was about 7, with scraped knees and messy pigtails. "This old chair has a story, Sandra," she would say, running her fingers over the worn wood of a Victorian piece. "Everything here does, just like you and me." She'd let me set up a little corner in the shop where I could draw and paint, and customers would stop and admire my childish scribbles. Aunt Meredith beamed with pride. "My little artist," she'd call me. As I grew up, the gap between me and my brothers, Michael, Thomas, and Daniel, widened. They never understood why Aunt Meredith and I were so close. They didn't see the hours we spent together, the way she encouraged my love for art while they were off doing their own thing. "Why don't you get a real job?" Thomas would sneer every time I mentioned my art. "Yeah, stop mooching off Aunt Meredith," Daniel would add. But Aunt Meredith always stood up for me. "Art is as real as it gets," she'd say. "Sandra's got a gift." Now, as I pack a small bag for her funeral, memories flood back. The smell of furniture polish, the jingle of the bell above the door, Aunt Meredith's warm laugh as she told me the stories behind each piece in her shop. I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror, red-rimmed eyes, paint-stained hands. I look a mess, but I can almost hear Aunt Meredith's voice. "You're beautiful, Sandra, inside and out." My phone buzzes with messages from my brothers. They're already talking about Aunt Meredith's will and what she might have left behind. It makes me sick. Locking my apartment door, I take a deep breath. I'm not ready to face a world without Aunt Meredith, but I know she'd want me to be strong. Little do I know, the drama that's about to unfold will test that strength in ways I never imagined. The funeral home feels suffocating, filled with people I barely know and the heavy scent of flowers and tension. I stand alone, away from my brothers who are huddled together, whispering and shooting glances my way. Look at her, acting all innocent. I hear Michael mutter. I bite my lip, fighting back tears. This is about Aunt Meredith, not them. The lawyer, Mr. Simmons, clears his throat. We are gathered to read the last will and testament of Meredith Anderson. My heart races. He mentions small donations to charities. Then, and to my beloved niece, Sandra Anderson, I leave my antique shop, Meredith's Treasures, including all its contents and business assets. The room erupts. Thomas leaps to his feet, face red with anger. This is ridiculous. She manipulated Aunt Meredith. Daniel joins in. Sandra's been taking advantage of her for years. This isn't fair. Mr. Simmons raises his hands, trying to calm them. Gentlemen, this was Miss Anderson's express wish. I'm stunned, barely registering the chaos around me. The shop. Aunt Meredith left me the shop. I'm suddenly transported back to a quiet evening there just a few months ago. She was polishing an old mirror, her expression wistful. You know, Sandra, I always wanted children of my own, she said softly, her voice tinged with regret. I hugged her tightly. You've been more of a mother to me than anyone. Her eyes welled up, and you've been the daughter I never had. Back in the present, I realize the enormity of what she's given me. It's not just a shop, it's her legacy, her trust in me. Michael approaches, his voice low and menacing. You won't get away with this, Sandra. We'll contest the will. I hold my ground. This was Aunt Meredith's decision. Michael, not mine. As they storm out, Mr. Simmons hands me a set of keys. Miss Anderson also left this for you, he says, handing over an envelope. Inside there's a letter and a list of contacts. Art dealers, collectors, restoration experts. My mind spins with the possibilities. Later that week, while I'm sorting through paperwork in the shop, the bell above the door jingles. It's Thomas with a smug look on his face. Hope you're not getting too comfortable, sis. We've hired a lawyer, Victor Reeves. He's known for overturning wills. A chill runs through me, but I stay calm. This is what Aunt Meredith wanted, Tom. Why can't you respect that? He scoffs. Because it's not fair. You're not even blood related to her. His words sting, but I stand firm. Family isn't just about blood, Thomas. It's about love. As he storms out, slamming the door, I sink into Aunt Meredith's old chair. The shop feels like both a sanctuary and a battlefield now. I trace my fingers over the worn wood of the desk, feeling Aunt Meredith's presence all around me. I won't let them take this from us. I promise, I whisper to the empty room, the words hanging in the air like a vow I'm determined to keep. Days blend into weeks as I throw myself into running the shop. Every antique holds a memory of Aunt Meredith, and keeping the business alive feels like keeping a piece of her with me. It's tough, but I'm learning fast. One afternoon, the bell chimes, and in walks a familiar face. Hi, I'm Olivia. I used to come here all the time, she says with a warm smile. We chat, and I quickly learn that she's well connected in the local business scene. You know, Sandra, she says thoughtfully, I think you're doing a great job here. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Her words boost my spirits, especially with the rumors circulating about me. Whispers of my mental state and worse. Questions about Aunt Meredith's competency when she wrote the will. I know it's my brothers stirring the pot. A few days later, I'm in the back room when I hear voices, my brothers and a man I don't recognize. Look, Victor, we need something solid. Michael is saying. Can you forge some documents or what? My blood runs cold. I peek out, seeing a slick guy in an expensive suit nodding. Leave it to me, he says confidently. We'll make it look like your aunt wanted to sell this place. Sandra won't know what hit her. Shaking, I call Olivia. They're trying to forge documents, Olivia. What do I do? She doesn't miss a beat. We fight fire with fire, honey. Let's set up some cameras in there. Catch them red-handed. The next day, we install hidden cameras and voice recorders throughout the shop. It feels wrong, sneaky, but I'm desperate. A week passes, and as I review the footage, I strike gold. Thomas and Daniel are in the shop after hours, planting forged papers in Aunt Meredith's old desk. Julie's going to freak when she finds these, Daniel says, laughing. Yeah, poor, unstable Sandra, Thomas adds. Can't handle running a business. It's for her own good, really. I feel sick, but at least now I have proof. The next day, they spring their trap. All three brothers show up, their faces etched with fake concern. Sandra, we need to talk, Michael starts. We're worried about you, Thomas chimes in, his voice dripping with false sympathy. Yeah, sis, you're not sleeping, you're barely eating. This shop is too much for you. I play along, curious to see how far they'll go. What are you saying? Daniel pulls out some papers. We found these in Aunt Meredith's desk. She was planning to sell the shop, Sandra. She knew it would be too much for you. I take the papers, my hands steady despite my racing heart. Oh really? That's interesting. They exchange triumphant glances, thinking they've won. You know, I say casually, it's funny you should mention these papers because I have something to show you too. I pull out my laptop and play the footage of them planting the documents, their faces drain of color. You recorded us? Michael sputters. I stand tall, feeling Aunt Meredith's strength surge through me. You bet I did. Now you have two choices. You can walk away and never bother me or this shop again. Or I can take this to the police. Your call. They storm out, hurling threats and insults, but for the first time since Aunt Meredith died, I feel truly in control. As I lock up the shop that night, I whisper to the quiet room, we did it, Aunt Meredith. We protected your legacy. The battle's not over. I know that, but I'm ready for whatever comes next. Julie Anderson isn't backing down. A few days later, I'm sitting in a cozy cafe with Olivia and her friend, Detective Mia Thompson. My hands tremble slightly as I push play on the recordings. Their faces grow grim as they listen. This is serious, Sandra, Mia says, her brow furrowed. I can't officially investigate, but I'll look into it discreetly. Olivia squeezes my hand. We've got your back, Honorable. Over the next few weeks, I pour myself into the shop while Mia digs deeper. One afternoon, she calls with news. This Victor Reeves character, he's got a history of shady dealings, nearly got disbarred twice. I feel a mix of vindication and disgust. Thanks, Mia. This helps a lot. Meanwhile, Olivia's been busy too. She introduces me to Jonathan, a respected art dealer. Sandra, your work is extraordinary, he says, examining my paintings. How about we organize an exhibition? The exhibition is a whirlwind of preparation and nerves, but it's a massive success. As I bask in the afterglow, I overhear a conversation that chills me to the bone. Yeah, the auction for Meredith's treasures is set for next week. Michael's voice drifts over. Panic surges through me. I immediately call Mia, who reassures me she'll be there. The day of the auction arrives, and I'm a bundle of nerves. I watch as my brothers strut in with Victor Reeves, smug and confident. They freeze when they see me. What are you doing here, Sandra? Thomas spits, venom in his voice. Before I can respond, Mia walks in, flanked by two officers. Gentlemen, I think we need to talk, she says calmly. What follows is a blur. Accusations, evidence, and rapidly paling faces. Victor Reeves tries to make a break for it, but he's quickly apprehended. You're facing disbarment and potential criminal charges, Mr. Reeves, Mia states coldly. My brothers stand shell-shocked. Michael's phone rings. It's his boss, firing him on the spot. Thomas's wife storms in, engagement ring in hand, and throws it at him before storming out. Daniel frantically tries to contact his business partners, but it's too late. They've already cut ties. As the dust settles, I feel a strange mix of sadness and relief. It's over, I whisper to myself. In the months that follow, I pour my heart into transforming the shop. Meredith's Treasures becomes a unique blend of an antique shop and an art gallery where my own work hangs alongside carefully curated pieces, each with a story to tell. 1 year later, I'm arranging a new exhibition when my phone buzzes. It's Michael. Sandra, please. We were wrong. Can't we talk? I take a deep breath, thinking of all the pain they caused me. No, Michael. I've moved on. I suggest you do the same. As I hang up, my eyes fall on a photo of Aunt Meredith. I smile, feeling her presence. We did it, Aunt Meredith, I say softly. Your legacy lives on, and I'm finally living my dream. I turn back to my canvas, brush in hand, ready to create something beautiful. The shop bell tinkles as a customer enters, and I smile. This is where I belong. This is my victory. And as for my brothers, they're learning the hard way that karma is real. Welcome to Meredith's Treasures. I call out, my voice strong and sure. How can I help you today? Sandra's journey through betrayal and triumph has come to an end, but we want to hear from you. If you were in her shoes, would you have given your brothers a second chance after their betrayal? Or was cutting ties the right decision? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. Hey everyone, I'm Olivia Thompson. I'm 17, a senior in high school, and to say my life's been a whirlwind these past few years would be an understatement. 3 years ago, my world collapsed when I lost my mom to cancer. I thought nothing could hurt worse, but life had more surprises. Dad remarried faster than I expected, bringing Karen, my new stepmother, and her daughter Megan into the picture. I tried to be hopeful, new family, fresh start, right? Wrong. From day one, it was obvious Karen had her own vision for this so-called blended family. Megan instantly became the star of the show, the golden child. And me? I was practically invisible. Olivia, honey, we're having dinner at 6. Karen would remind me, knowing full well I had work or debate club. Sure, Karen. I'll try to make it, I'd say, already knowing I wouldn't. My job at the local bookstore and my school activities became my escape. Every night, I come home exhausted, only to find a cold plate of leftovers in the fridge. Meanwhile, the scent of Karen's freshly cooked dinner for Megan still filled the air. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. Dad, did you save any of the roast for me? I asked, hoping for a shred of consideration. He looked up from his laptop, puzzled. Oh, I thought you ate at work, sweetie. There's some leftover pasta in the fridge. I bit my lip, swallowing the hurt. Right, thanks. As I microwaved the stale pasta, I could hear Karen and Megan laughing together in the living room, probably sharing another inside joke. One I wasn't part of. Dad's barely around these days, always working late, completely oblivious to the tension suffocating our house. We used to be close, but now it's like we're strangers living under the same roof. He'd ask, "How was your day, Olivia?" without even looking up from his phone. Fine, I'd mutter, knowing he wasn't really listening. The worst part? Watching Karen dote on Megan like she's royalty. Well, I'm just an afterthought. Megan gets new clothes, the latest gadgets, home-cooked meals. I'm lucky if Karen remembers to grab my favorite cereal at the store. Mom, can we go shopping this weekend? Megan would ask, her voice dripping with sweetness. Of course, darling. We'll make a day of it. Karen would reply, never once acknowledging me. I tried talking to Dad about it, but he brushed me off. Olivia, you're overreacting. Karen's trying her best. Give her a chance. A chance? It's been 3 years of cold leftovers and colder shoulders. How many more chances does she need? So here I am, stuck in this house that doesn't feel like home anymore, counting down the days until graduation. My room has become my sanctuary, filled with memories of my mom and dreams of a future far away from this place. Sometimes I stare at old family photos and wonder how things would be if Mom were still here. Would she see through Karen's act? Would she stand up for me? But there's no use dwelling on what ifs. For now, I just have to survive, one cold meal at a time. This isn't the family I wanted, but it's the one I've got. Someday, I'll have my own life, my own rules. No more leftovers. No more being treated like I don't exist. Until then, I'll keep working, studying, and dreaming of a future where I'm more than an afterthought. Because one thing's for sure, I'm done settling for scraps in my meals and in my life. But then came the final straw. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it, a Nordstrom receipt tucked into Karen's purse. $500 for a dress, for Megan. My blood boiled as I remembered Dad handing Karen money for groceries just yesterday. What are you doing in my room? Karen's voice sliced through my shock. I spun around, clutching the receipt. Where's the food, Karen? Dad gave you money for groceries, not designer clothes. Her face twisted into an ugly sneer. Mind your own business, you ungrateful brat. Your father works hard to provide for this family. This family? You mean you and Megan? I'm eating ramen while she's getting $500 dresses. I snapped. Karen ripped the receipt from my hand. Get out of my room. Now. I stormed out, slamming the door behind me, my hands shaking as I texted Zoe, "Need to talk. Meet me at the park." An hour later, I sat on our usual park bench, spilling everything to Zoe. "Girl, you need to tell your dad," she said, her eyes wide. I sighed. He won't believe me. He never does. Just then, my phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "Where are you?" "Family dinner tonight." I groaned. Great. Another performance of the Karen and Megan show. Zoe squeezed my hand. "Go, but document everything. We'll figure this out." When I got home, the rich aroma of pot roast filled the air, making my stomach growl. A painful reminder of the meager lunch I'd had earlier. As I stepped into the dining room, Karen's voice cut through the moment. "Nice of you to join us," she said, dripping with sarcasm. I clenched my jaw and took a seat. Dad was already at the table, absorbed in his phone, like always. "How was everyone's day?" he asked, without looking up. Megan immediately launched into a detailed account of her day, twirling her fork in the perfectly portioned meal on her plate. I glanced down at my own plate, noticeably smaller. "Oh, Daddy," Megan chimed in, her voice set Karen sweet. "I got an A on my math test today." "That's my girl." Dad beamed, finally lifting his head to acknowledge her. "We should celebrate. How about that new phone you've been wanting?" I couldn't hold back any longer. "Are you kidding me?" I snapped. She gets a new phone for an A, while I'm valedictorian, and I can't even get new sneakers. The table fell into a stunned silence. Dad's face darkened. "Olivia, that's enough. You're being dramatic." "Dramatic?" I spat back, my voice rising. "Open your eyes, Dad. Karen's using your money to spoil Megan while I'm treated like Cinderella." Karen gasped theatrically. "How dare you? After everything we've done for you." "Done for me? What have you done except make me feel like an outsider in my own home?" Dad's hand slammed down on the table, rattling the dishes. "That's enough, Olivia. Apologize to Karen now." I stood my chair, scraping loudly against the floor. "Apologize? For telling the truth." "You're just jealous of Megan," Dad said, his voice cold and detached. "I thought I raised you better than this." Tears blurred my vision as I turned and stormed out, Karen's fake sobs echoing behind me. In my room, I slammed the door and collapsed onto my bed, the weight of it all crashing down on me. The next day at school, I couldn't focus. My English teacher, Ms. Larson, noticed something was off and pulled me aside after class. "Olivia, is everything all right?" Before I knew it, I was pouring out everything to her, tears streaming down my face as she listened, her expression growing more concerned by the minute. "Olivia, this isn't right," she said softly. "Have you thought about talking to a school counselor?" I shook my head. "They'll just call my dad. He won't believe me." Ms. Larson sighed. "Then we need to gather evidence, document everything, and remember, you're not alone in this." A small flicker of hope ignited in me. Maybe, just maybe, someone would finally believe me. But for now, I had to go home and face another night of leftovers and loneliness. I was done with Karen's games. It was time to fight back. With Zoe's help, we started Operation Expose Karen. We set up tiny hidden cameras in the common areas of the house and kept a detailed log of every incident. "You sure this is legal?" Zoe asked as we positioned a camera on the bookshelf. "Probably not," I whispered back, "but neither is stealing." Days passed and the evidence piled up. Karen accidentally spilling bleach on my favorite sweater, Megan bragging about her new iPhone while I struggled with a cracked screen, and the kicker, Karen's hushed phone calls moving money from our family account into her personal one. Meanwhile, I threw myself into school. When I won the state writing competition, I thought maybe, just maybe, Dad would notice. "Congrats, sweetie," he said, barely glancing up from his laptop. But someone else did notice. Sarah Chen, a local journalist, reached out to me after reading one of my essays. "Your story about family dynamics was powerful," she said over coffee. "Have you thought about pursuing journalism?" For the first time in months, I felt truly seen. "I'm applying to colleges now," I told her. "Journalism is definitely on the list." Her eyes lit up. "Keep in touch. I might have an internship opportunity for you." At home, though, things were only getting worse. One night, I overheard Karen and Megan in the kitchen. "Mom, why do we even keep her around?" Megan whined. Karen's laugh was cold. "Don't worry, sweetie. Once she turns 18, we'll make sure she's out of our hair for good. My blood ran cold. I had to get out of there. The next day, I was in my room, filling out college applications, when I heard a crash from the hallway. Rushing out, I found Karen standing over the shattered remains of my mom's photo album. "Oops," she said, smirking. "Accidents happen." Something inside me snapped. "You did that on purpose." I screamed, dropping to my knees to gather the scattered photos. "Prove it," Karen sneered. Just then, Dad walked in. "What's going on here?" Through my tears, I explained everything. To my shock, Karen didn't even bother to deny it. "It's just some old photos, Jack. She's overreacting, as usual." I looked at Dad, praying he'd finally see the truth. His face was unreadable. "Karen, we need to talk," he said quietly. "Olivia, go to your room." I went, but not before grabbing my hidden camera from the bookshelf. Hours later, Dad knocked on my door. His eyes were red. "Olivia, I am so sorry. I had no idea." I handed him my phone, showing him the videos, the logs, everything. "I should have believed you," he said, his voice breaking. "What happens now?" I asked, barely daring to hope. Dad took a deep breath. "Karen and Megan are leaving. I've already called a lawyer." Relief washed over me, but the victory was tinged with sadness. How had it come to this? As Dad hugged me, I realized this wasn't the end but a new beginning. I had colleges to apply to, a potential internship to pursue, and a relationship with my father to rebuild. For the first time in years, I could breathe again. The war was over, and I had won, but the real victory was finally being heard. The next morning, I woke to raise voices downstairs. I crept to the top of the stairs and listened. "How could you do this, Karen? To my daughter, to our family?" "Your daughter." Karen shot back. "What about Megan? You've never treated her like your own." "I gave you both everything," Dad said, his voice tight with anger. "And you stole from us. You manipulated me." There was a loud crash, followed by Karen's shrill voice. "This is all Olivia's fault. She's turned you against us." "No, Karen, you did that all on your own." The argument raged on, but I'd heard enough. Retreating to my room, I felt a strange mix of relief and anxiety swirling in my stomach. Days passed in a blur. Karen and Megan moved out, leaving behind a house that felt emptier, but freer too. Dad threw himself into making amends, but years of neglect weren't going to be fixed overnight. "I'm so sorry, Olivia," he'd say, his voice heavy with regret. "I should have seen it sooner." I'd nod, not quite ready to forgive, but willing to try. Then came the day Sarah's article was published. Family Secrets. A daughter's fight for justice was splashed across the front page of the local paper. My story, our story, was laid bare for all to see. The community reaction was swift. People I'd known my whole life looked at me differently, some with pity, others with admiration. Karen and Megan became pariahs almost overnight. "Did you hear? Karen's been fired from the bank," Zoe whispered during lunch. Apparently, she'd been embezzling there too. I should have felt vindicated, but mostly, I just felt tired. I just wanted to be over, I told her. But it wasn't quite over. As valedictorian, I had to give a speech at graduation. Standing at the podium, I looked out over the sea of familiar faces, some of which I wish I could forget. "We've all faced challenges," I began, my voice shaky. "Some visible, some hidden behind closed doors. But it's not the challenges that define us. It's how we face them." I caught Dad's eye in the crowd, and he nodded, urging me on. "We have the power to write our own stories, to choose resilience over resentment, growth over stagnation." When I finished, the applause washed over me, and for the first time in years, I felt truly seen. After the ceremony, Sarah approached me smiling. "That internship is yours if you want it," she said. "Your story, it's making a difference, Olivia." I hugged Dad tightly, holding my diploma. "I'm proud of you, kiddo," he whispered, so proud. As we walked to the car, I spotted Karen and Megan in the distance, isolated and glaring. I felt a twinge of pity for them, but it passed quickly. They'd made their choices. I wasn't looking back. Ahead of me, I saw a future full of possibilities: college, the internship, a chance to help others who'd been silenced. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready. After all, I'd already survived the worst. What would you have done in Olivia's place? Would you have confronted your family earlier or taken a different approach? Share your thoughts in the comments.